Hey guys, welcome back to Board Game Breakdown. I am Chris Solomon, and I am really excited about the game we are talking about today, and that is Obsession. So, you might have seen some stuff about this game, but you might not have been able to get your hands on it. It's really hard to get right now. If you're watching this around the time I post it, which is end of July 2022, there's probably no copies to be had, but I have seen recently that there are, I think, copies on a boat on the way to um, Savannah, I think is the port it's coming in at. And the designer said hopefully there'll be enough copies to get through the next couple of years. So don't run out and spend a bunch of money on it. Wait for it to get back in stock. But I'm super excited because this isn't even my game. I couldn't get my hands on it either, but I had some friends at work that I realized had bought the game a few months ago, had not played it yet, and they let me borrow it so I could do this review for all of you. And I'm just really excited about this. I've played it a few times, almost daily over the last couple weeks. I've played it solitaire, I've played it two-player, and really it just blows me away with how great and thematic it is. So if you don't know anything about this game, if you look at the front here, you see this nice palatial estate, but the closest theme-wise I can compare it to is Downton Abbey. Very popular show. I guess it was a BBC produced that ran for, I don't know, maybe 6 years. They recently had a movie come out, which I've not seen, so I'm not going to vouch for the quality of that, but I can vouch that the show was great, and this really lives up to recreating that theme in a board game. So hopefully you enjoy the video. It is a little bit on the long side. I will mention I had a lot to say, and I wanted to make sure the playthrough was detailed enough to answer any questions that you might have, because there's a lot going on here. What I have done is add chapters, and we really only have a setup chapter and a playthrough chapter, but I split the playthrough up into a couple different chapters so you can see how the first season works compared to the other seasons. So hopefully just use those chapters to navigate through. Before we get really going, just want to remind everyone to please visit the website at boardgamebreakdown.com. We have a written review up on Obsession. It's a little less detailed on how to actually play it and has more on what I really like and don't like about the game. We have other reviews. We have links to our YouTube channel, and also check us out on Instagram at board.game.breakdown. Please comment on any of these sites so we can get some conversations going. We really love to hear about what you have to say. So without any further ado, let's get started with Obsession. So we're going to start setting up the game Obsession, and you'll see that I'm not doing quite the same format where I open the box and go from that angle, because honestly there's a lot going on with this and I didn't want to make people have to watch me fumble through the box. The other thing is this box does not come with an insert. It comes with a lot of little inner boxes, and so you'll see some of those as I go through, and honestly I have no clue how any of you pack this back up. There's no instructions, and I'm be really curious to see if anyone wants to comment, how do you separate out your pieces for this game and put them back in the box so that they fit all correctly and that you can set it up easy on the next turn. So I'll show you how I'm doing it. I don't know if it's the best, but we'll go from there. So you'll see out here we've got this board here. This is going to have the market tiles, which are the different rooms you can buy. It's going to also have servants that you can get hired for your different houses depending on how many people are playing. And then over here is the round tracker. So there's going to be a little pawn that moves through this, and it keeps up with which round we're on and any special objective that might take place. And it's also going to house some other cards there that we'll get into in a minute. So the first thing you do is you set up your personal board. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that. So there's two pieces to it. There's actually, these are flip side. So if you didn't want to use this piece, you could stack all your cards or your tiles down that way. But I like having this off to the side so I have a little more room. So you grab the name of the family that you want to play as, and there's 4 that come with the base game, and then there's 2 in an expansion that I have not played yet. Each of them has a kind of special player power that it states right here, a family bonus. So these are the Cavendishes. It says the Cavendishes are the best connected and begin the game with reputation level 1, position 4. Probably makes no sense to you if you've never played this game, but we'll talk about it in a second. So once you know what family you want, you can grab these boxes. So there's these 4, or actually there's 6 boxes that come with the game. So like that's for the York family. That's the one I'm playing as, the Cavendish. We'll set that there. And then you have the Asquith and the Ponsonbys. I'm probably butchering those names, but and then you also get the Wessex family and the Howard family, which those are the ones from one of the expansions, but they go ahead and give you the boxes. So again, I don't really know what you're supposed to do with this box. I'll show you what I decided to do. I took this little box, and inside it I have the family cards and then the servants that this family starts with. Almost all the families start with the same servants, except one gets an extra footman. I think it's the York family. But so I did that so you could just kind of hand these out to the player and they would have all their stuff inside. So let's look at what's inside a little more in depth here. So you are going to have 4 family cards, and everyone starts out with 4 except I'm going to say the Asquiths, I believe, start with a 5th Dowager card, Dowager Countess. But each family starts with like a son, a dad, a mom, a daughter, and each of them gives the same favors. Like every son gives the same favor. So even though the names are different, you're basically, everyone starts with these same 4 cards. To show you a little more in depth what a card looks like, because there's a lot going on the cards. There's like a unique portrait, there's a unique name or title. There's a little, not on the family cards, down here it just shows you the favor detail, but on the guest cards, the gentry cards we'll get out in a minute, all of them have a little flavor text about the person on the card. And then there's some iconography up there, which will go about explaining more in the gameplay. So just know at the moment you got your 4 family cards, so they're going to kind of just go off to the side for a moment. Get this back in focus. And then you'll take out your servants. So you're going to take your servants and you're going to place them in this available service. So you get a couple different ones. And I'm going to probably not know the names of these. So here, I know this is a lady's maid, the little purple one. Blue is a butler. White is a footman. Green is a valet. And I do not remember, maybe this is a housemaid or something. I know she has to be used on cards when they have like tea and stuff. I'm going to find the real name and I'm going to stick it as a little comment here. Because that bothers me that I don't know it, but I'm not going to look it up right now. So, sorry guys. Alright, so the little box I just put away. Again, Maybe there's like a better use for that, but that's what I've decided. Put these guys, put the cards in there, boom. The other thing is you have some other pieces that I stick in these expansion boxes. So I've got like a bunch of different cards in this one, and then in the other one I have a bunch of the other servants that we're going to put out and some of the other like little tokens and stuff. So I'm going to set these to the side for just a second because we are going to finish setting up our player board here. So what you will also get is a stack of these reputation tiles. So they're two-sided, so that's like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then max. You're going to take these and you can put the 1 right there, so everyone will put a 1, and then these just kind of stick off to the side, and as this increases, we'll flip those out there. You're also going to take one of these little black tokens here, and normally it would go right there on the 1, so you start at reputation 1, level 1. But we are level 1, position 4, so we're going to go ahead and move that around to there. And as your reputation goes up, you can invite more distinguished or prestigious guests, and there's some other benefits to that as well. All right, the other thing we need to do with our startup board is get our 5 starting rooms out over here. So the tiles, I'm going to go ahead and grab these. I already grabbed my starting tiles, but if you look at a tile, in the top right hand corner, there is this little estate logo. That is what tells you that it is a starting tile. So you have one starting tile for each color, and each color lines up with these 5 categories. So you have essentials, service, estate, prestige, sporting. So we just take those and we line them up. I will note as I'm lining these up, the flip side has a rose on it, and you will be flipping these during gameplay, but know at the start you are not going to ever be putting it on the rose side. You're always going to have that building, estate, castle, whatever you want to call it, showing, and that's how you know that you have it on the right side. So I am setting this game up as a solitaire game, but almost everything we're doing also tracks for the 2-player game. So obviously with a 2-player game, the other player would have their own board and their own set of tiles over there, but the country estate improvements they start with would be the exact same as yours. So everyone starts with the same 5 tiles and the same 4 cards here. We're going to add 2 cards shortly, but we'll talk about that in a second when we get to that point. All right, so that is basically how you set up the player board itself. So let's get into this little box, and we will set up this. Well, we'll set up the turn board first. So one, I'm going to need this die for the solo game, so I'm going to go ahead and just take that out. There is a first player marker here. It's purple, but in the solitaire game, I don't need that. So I'm going to leave it in the box. In the solitaire game, you do need this white pawn, or a 2-player, 3-player, 4-player game, because it's going to track which round. So we're going to go ahead and stick it over there on the number 1 round. And then you'll see that we have 2 other piles up there for, or little areas for piles of cards. And those I keep in here, and they're going to be these really small cards. So I'm going to go ahead and get these out. So I would mention that I'm not a giant fan of these tiny cards. This size I'm okay with. These tiny little things, I don't know. They're not my favorite. We'll put it that way. I think I know why they made them small, because the flip side really doesn't, I mean, it doesn't have a ton of information on it. So it's not like they need to be large and grandiose. But it's not the easiest thing to handle, these small, tiny cards. I guess I could have found some bags to separate them, but they get kind of mixed up. So right now I'm off. My hands are off camera, sorting these out into their two piles. Should have done that beforehand. And done. Okay, so you have a stack of victory point cards here. This is the bigger stack of the small cards. On the flip side, it's going to show you either an amount of victory points for this one, or a advantage, or like a favor that you could trade the victory points in and use that action. If you don't use the action, you get those victory points at the end of the game. You're going to win these for winning these courtship rounds at the end of each season, which we'll discuss in a second. And then you also have these little courtship cards. And what they are going to show is one of the colors. And so you'll see that when we start a season, depending on which variant you're playing, you're going to flip one of these over, and that's going to tell the players how they win the courtship round. So thematically, the last thing you have to do over here on this elderly hall is get these two Fairchild cards out. So this is Mr. and Mrs. Fairchild, and this is who you are trying to wow each season. So if we pull out one of these little cards and it shows that they are really impressed with sporting activities that season, then you're kind of vying to get the most sporting points racked up with your rooms. And at the courtship portion, you attempt to win that. If you do, you get to take one of those cards I just showed you and stick it in your hand for free. And if you have that person at the end of the game, one of the Fairchilds, it's like an extra 8 points. And they also have some pretty good benefits that you can use as you're playing. All right, so that takes care of the round turn, whatever, tracker board thing on the left. So let's finish up here, which is where the market is. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our little box of people, and we're going to go ahead and stick out the extra workers. So in a 2-player or solo game, you're going to put out 2 valids. This black piece, you have not seen that, is an under butler. So he's like a special person you can hire through a certain butler's pantry room. Whoops. And you only ever have 2 under butlers in a game. Some of these other pieces, you might have more servants depending on how many people are in the round. You have 2 ladies' maids, and then you have 4 footmen. So these are going to be servants you can hire and add to your personal board to help you do more activities, is what they're called. All right, so that's going to go up, that little box there. You have objective cards. So I'm going to shuffle these up. You deal out 5 to each player. I will note that you could play an extended variant, and so some of these numbers are a little different. Like you would get more objective cards, but I'm not going to discuss any of that. This will all be strictly on the standard length version. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're going to put out 5 of those, put the rest up here. And so these are really, I like these types of cards. So like this one tells you at the end of the game, if you had this group of rooms, the main library and the north library, you would get 12 extra victory points. There might be things like this where you want to finish the game with a certain amount of pounds and you get extra VP for this wealth bonus. So they're going to be different things like that. Now, what I do like again about these is at the end of each season, we're going to toss one away and you'll never get that back. But then in the 6th round, you're going to draw 2 more. So at the end, you're going to end up with 3 of these that you can score points. So there's a nice like give take because sometimes you get an objective card here at the beginning that you're like, oh, I'm going to attempt to do that. And then you never see the tile come out. So it sucks in the games where you get stuck with those objectives that you're never going to meet. But I like how this game gives you some options to toss some and then pick up 2 more eventually. That's cool. All right, so let's move over to here where we have these guests. And you see these little, I'm definitely going to butcher that name, Fleur de Lis. That's probably all wrong. So we're going to just call it the little spade. It's also used a lot with the New Orleans Saints, but I'm unfortunately an Atlanta Falcons fan, so I can't talk about the Saints. So we'll just call it that little spade emblem. So that is for our different guests. So this deck of cards is they're called the Gentry deck. So I think in the book it talks about theme-wise gentry or just any sort of distinguished guest. So there's 2 decks of them. So I've already split them up, so you don't have to listen to me do that. But like they look sort of like the family cards, but like I said, they have some flavor text down here. But for this purpose right here, what we're concentrating on is in this top left corner, you see 2 of those symbols. So this whole deck is 2 symbol people, and they're going to go there, and that's like the prestigious deck. The other deck has 1 of those symbols at the top. So you'll see right there. But in that other deck, there are 15 of these cards that have an additional symbol, and it's this little like crown. So those are the 15 starting guests. So what you do is you separate those off, you shuffle them up, and you're going to deal out 2 to each person. These are going to go into your hand with your family. So those are your first 2 guests that you're able to invite. So we talked about how if you're playing a 2 or 3, 4 player game, each player is starting out with a slightly different family bonus, but they are starting out with all the same room tiles, and they're basically starting out with the same 4 family members. But these 2 cards give a little bit more variety between what I have starting out and what you might have starting out. You're then going to take these 15 starter cards and you're going to just shuffle them into that single little spade symbol deck because they are not prestigious guests. The reason why they're split out, I think, is because they're all like 1 reputation, which is what we start with right here. So that way you have a little bit more variety. You don't get stuck with like a 3 reputation card that you can't even play for 2 rounds or whatever. So once those other ones are shuffled, they're going to go right there. All right, so now we have to set up the market. So there are 6 spaces for tiles. I have dumped all of the tiles into this nice drawstring bag. Obviously, except for the starter tiles. Those are somewhere else. So these are just regular old tiles that you can get throughout the game. One thing that you do need to do is there are these things called monuments. When you build these, they don't actually give you any sort of activity, but what they are going to give is you reputation every turn. So you check the rule book for how many monuments you're going to put in each game. For a solo or two player, you're going to put in the sculpture garden, and you're going to put in 2 more. So I'm just going to shuffle these up, and I'm just going to draw 2. So boom. So we've got the big game trophy room, and we've got the largest wine cellar. All right, so these are eventually going to go in the bag, but you're never going to start the game with these in the market. They might come out in the second round, but they'll never start in the first round, so I'm going to leave those there for a second. And then the other monuments you're not using, you can just put them back in the box. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to draw out 6 tiles, and there are some rules as to if you can use them for the starting round. So when you pull a tile out, sorry, the first tile I pulled out was actually a starting tile that must have got accidentally put in the bag when we cleaned up last time. Okay, so here we see the fence paddock. So you'll see in the right hand corner there is no little estate symbol, so that's how you know this is not a starter. And it also gives you an amount there that's going to show you that whatever little section it's in, it will be minus 100 pounds for that. But the couple rules that we're looking for from the starting point is mainly right here. These are going to be numbered 1 through 6, or I think 6 is the highest room. But that has to do with your reputation. So we don't want any of these out here that are higher than 3. So we pull this out. It's a 1. It is fine. And we're just going to make like a little pile here for a second until we find our 6 that are eligible. So here's one that's got 2, so that's fine. 3s are fine. Getting a nice mix of colors. This is a service. It's the barn. According to the rule book, we can have that in there to start out with, so that's cool. Here's another 3, so that can go there. Let's talk about this real quick. You'll see in its top right hand corner is this little like flower symbol. That, and also this looks kind of different. So this, when it flips over, is actually a different type of room. So you'll see this has a line under the flower. This does not have a line. This tells you that you need to start on this side. So we can have that still. And then we got one more. All right, so like the last one I pulled out is a 5. Since that's not eligible, I'm just going to fling it in that group down there because it will go back into the bag shortly. And then I pulled out another 2. So that works. Now, if you ever had any that were the same, they stack on top of each other, and then you still fill out the remaining slot. So you're never going to have a slot that's missing a room. If 2 get stacked up on top of each other, that just allows, like if someone buys that, then the one underneath is still eligible to be bought. All right, so the last thing we're going to do is, because you need to know what order they go in. Each of your cards or tiles has this tiny little number right there above the corner. So like on this one, I can't get it to focus right. There we go. This one, it's 050. This one might be 088. So what we're going to do is we're going to put them in ascending order from left to right based off of that little number. So like here's a 020, so that's probably going to be our lowest, so that's going to go there. Let's see what else we got. We got a 040, 050, 070, 075, 088. So that's how we're going to slot those into there. And then you'll see like the fence paddock is 400 pounds, but at a discount of 100 because it's in this spot. Sometimes you have things, especially the monuments, that are going to be plus. So it might be here, it might be 700, but it might be plus 400. So it's actually going to be 1,100 pounds. Lastly, we'll take those ones that were not eligible for the starting market and just toss them back in the bag. Shake all that up and put that over here. These two spots are left blank at the beginning of the game. They are going to be used in the second and the third season, so I will not discuss that right now. You also saw early on, this was already set up, but I threw the pounds out there. These are hundreds, these are 500s. So if there's more in the box, you can just throw those in there. And then the very last thing that I will do is I will grab the solitaire cards if I am playing a solitaire game. So one, you're going to have this card here. You want that. So we're going to stick it over there. That card basically is going to tell you what each roll of the die is going to cause which market tile to be used by the solitaire player. The other cards, we're going to draw one of these. Each of these is a different solitaire family that we're playing against, and they have different levels here. So like there's, I think, 4 beginner cards, 4 or 5, and then there's like expert, intermediate, and that just will determine how many points they're going to generate at the end of the game. So we will just do a beginner's game, but we're going to do the hardest beginner. So that is going to be the Stewart family at 87 points. So that's going to go over there. We're going to basically just reference that during, we'll reference this every time we roll the die. We'll reference this at the courtship rounds at the end of each season. So we'll put those solitaire cards back over there. And that is set up now. So at that point, we are ready to get started. So give me 1 minute to clean everything up, and then we will actually go through at least one season, if not a season and a half or so you can see how that all works, of the solitaire game. All right, welcome back. We are ready to start the game. You'll see I have it set up from the last chapter still, no changes or anything there. So I think we can jump right in. So before we take our first turn, there is a different variant having to do with these. So there's like an open courtship and a closed courtship, where typically in a 2-player game, you're going to draw one of these cards, and it will remember that it tells you one of these colors, and you kind of work towards that all the way to when you have your first courtship, and then you figure out who won that courtship. In the solitaire game, it's recommended that you do a closed courtship, which means when you get to this, then we'll just flip it over. I'm not exactly sure why that's done, but it might be because in the solitaire game, the opponent has these little table of points that you're going to use. But you could basically, if you knew that the color was going to be purple, or let's say that coral color this round, on his card for season 1, it's -2. So you could basically only buy the coral cards that are going to assure you that you get more than -2, which would be pretty easy. All you had to do is basically use the gazebo once and flip it over. And you could be buying tiles to set you up for season 2, season 3, and the final season. So I think that if you do an open and play solitaire, you probably are going to destroy the opponent. This way, when it closes, you don't really know what's going to come up. It's just a little bit of luck. I know some of y'all probably don't like the luck factor. You could play with the open courtship if you wanted on the solitaire game, but I am curious to know if you would end up always winning. So if you feel like the need for that, then go go try it out. Let me know in the comments how that works for you. All right, so how do you take a turn? All right, I'm going to be honest. I like rule books. I read lots of rule books. Well, not lots. I read the rule books to my games. I don't like just sit around and read random rule books. But I enjoy teaching people how to play. And this rule book stumped me when it came to how to actually take a turn. I don't know what it was about it. I'm not going to sit here and say it was badly written. But there was just some sort of block that did not allow me to understand how to take a turn correctly. So hopefully, if you have experienced that at all, or if you buy this game and then you experience it, you can come back and watch this video and maybe I can help clear it up. So what I will say is each round, which are these single little purple rectangles, each round, each player is going to choose to either take these 8 actions in order or they're going to pass. Those are your 2 choices. If you do these, then you do all of them in this order. Then the other player goes, or in the solitaire game, the solitaire player, we roll the dice for them, and then we move to the next round. At that point, again, you choose, do I want to do my 8 actions, or do I want to pass? Why would you ever pass, you might say? The other game I own that is similar, has a similar mechanism as far as the passing is concerned, is Lewis and Clark, The Expedition, I think is the full name of it. Basically what you're going to be seeing is our guest cards. We're going to be using them at certain events or activities is what they call it. But once we use them, that guest is done until we pass. So eventually our hand is going to be dwindling. And then we don't have enough guests to invite. So if we take a turn and say, well, now I'm going to pass, that's what enables us to basically, we don't take any actions that turn, but we do get to pick up all of our cards. Some of our servants might be expended. We get to refresh all of our servants. We still get 200 pounds and we still get to buy a room. So if you want to think about it, passing is going to be the mechanism that allows you to refresh your whole board, your individual board kind of. I typically pass, I don't know, once or twice a game. It just depends on what cards I've got. So all that to say, the majority of your time you're going to be spent doing these 8 things. Again, you do all of them. And then it's the next player's turn, and then we move the round token. The courtship, which is these kind of greenish rectangles, are handled completely different. But like I said, I'm going to go through at least one full season, which is 3 purple turns and then a courtship turn, and then maybe a few other rounds just to show you how it works after the courtship. All right, so it's not complicated. I don't even think the rule book makes it complicated. I think I just had a personal situation that took me a while to overcome. All right, so we're going to take our turn because we are going to go first, and we are going to follow this little handy guide of how to play. At least for the first round or so, I'm going to call out each one specifically and tell you exactly what that means. After that, I might speed it up a little bit. But you're always going to refresh your service, which that is your servants and where they're available. So you will see that on the first round, they're all available. We can use them however we want to during this round. But once we use them, they're going to go to expended. So the first thing we do on our next turn is move them from here to here. And if there are any in here, we're going to move them from here to here. Now there is a special room we can buy that allows you to use one servant that's in this box. So it kind of speeds up them. But if you want to think about it, you can use each servant basically once every 3 turns. But that's why we have this pool of other servants you can hire, because you'll see pretty quickly, like the footmen, you need more than one probably to be efficient. So we'll want to hire them in. All right, so refresh service. We don't have to do that first round. Cool. Second, we're going to check the round track. So over here, certain rounds have little emblems on them that cause different things to happen. Round 1, round 2, they don't have anything, so we won't worry about that. We can check for monuments. I mentioned monuments in the setup. They're ones that you buy, and then it allows you to increase your reputation, but we don't currently have any monuments out. And Servants Hall, I believe is the one that lets you play a worker from here. So that's just a reminder to check to see if that's out. We don't have that. Nobody starts with that, so it's fine. So basically, your first round, you're going to skip those first 2, basically every game. All right, so host an activity. All right, you'll see this little, sorry, I got choked up there. You'll see this little block here for activity. So that is going to be where we're going to pick which of these rooms we are going to host the activity in this round. So a couple things about these rooms. I'm going to just pick up, let's just pick up this one. Hold it up a little closer for you. So the front parlor. So what that's saying is we are going to invite 2 ladies to this activity, and that's what we're going to invite from our hand. Well, why we have these cards, but it has to be 2 ladies. It cannot be 1 lady. It cannot be 3 ladies. It can't be one lady and a dude. It has to be 2 ladies. You'll also see that we need this little emblem to power, as well, how I think of it, to power the room, to work the room. So we need that red person that I never actually went and looked up before filming this, which I also got stuck in the setup, not understanding her name. I'm going to call her a housemaid. I think that's right, but whatever. We need a housemaid. If we don't have a housemaid available, if this housemaid is back here because we already used her, you can't play this room. Okay? So, we need that. And then these other things on here is when we trigger this room, we're going to get 3 reputation. Reputation is symbolized by these little lions. And currently, if we don't ever use this room, because we won't ever flip it, it's going to be negative 2 points at the end of the game. So that's what's going on there. So we kind of got to decide, well, what do we want right off the bat? Do we want some money so we can buy some more rooms? I have no money, so that's probably a good thing. There's just a couple other things. There's this village fair coming up. If we flip this, it's helpful. Maybe I'll do that next round. So let's do this. Let's get some money. Let's use this one. So we take the activity we want to use. We stick it right there. Okay. We now have to make sure we can power this thing. So I need to use a footman. Good thing I have a footman. It goes right there. Now, I have to invite 2 gentry. So gentry in this game refers to the cards. They can be family member. It could be a lady. It can be a gentleman. It could be a prestigious guest. It could be anybody. If it says gentry, you can use anyone out of your hand. Basically, the one thing you've got to look for is in the left-hand corner, it tells you what servant has got to be used for that card. Now, your 4 family cards, they don't need servants. Sometimes you get an additional regular guest like this lady that doesn't need a servant either. But you saw that I have this, and she needs a servant to power her. But sometimes people that use servants give you some additional things, money, reputation. So we got to pick out our 2 people we want to do, keeping in mind that at some point I want to invite 2 ladies, so I don't want to use up all my ladies here. So I'm going to use her. So you usually put them underneath. Realize I don't have a ton of space. So let's stick her there, and then let's use somebody who let's use the father. He doesn't use any servants up, so we stick those down right there. So now we're going to take the appropriate little servants and put them there. All right, so that was host an activity was the act of putting that there and powering it. Invite guest was the act of putting the cards down. And I guess provide service is technically when you put these servants out. I like to do them as I'm going though, so that I know that I have the correct things, because once you get a whole deck of cards almost in your hand sometimes, and a lot of servants moving back and forth, you could end up picking the wrong card and then realizing all the way down here, like, oh, I can't even do that. So I got to put them all back. All right, so next is enjoy favors. So favors are basically the things that you get from either hosting that activity or from inviting the guests. So we are going to pull this footman off, and since he has been used, he is going into the expended service. But I'm going to take £300 now. So, whoa. 1, 2, 3. We're going to look at him. I'm going to get the favor in the bottom right hand corner, £200. 1, 2. And then he gets shuffled over here upside down, so I know that I have already invited him. I cannot use him again until I pass. Then we expend her lady maid, and she gives me a reputation, which is that lion. So the reputation moves up there, and she gives me £100. I almost said bucks because I'm an American. But then she is also discarded. And so we got our favors. So that was there. And now we have a chance to buy from the market. So I do want to look back at my objective cards and just kind of be reminded again of what they are. So have a lot of money at the end of the game and never have money at the end of the game. So 1 victory point for each prestigious guest. So remember that's from this deck. So we can keep that in mind. 1 victory point per estate tile, which is this like coral color. So we can keep that in mind with this fence paddock. Have 3 valets, I think is. I only think it's that because I think that's what they call them in Downton Abbey. I've also never had 3 of 3 valets, so I don't know if I'll pull that off. And then I like these type where you have to collect certain rooms, main library and north library. It's the essential category, but the only essential brownish color one is this green room, which is not part of that. So not a ton out there right now that has to do with our objectives, but I do like this card. It'll give us an extra point at the end because it's coral colored. So it's typically £400, but we're at a 100 discount. So 1, 2, 3, put that up there. We're going to take this and you slide it in over there underneath. Now there's a couple rules about the builder's market. You can only buy 1 room a turn. That is until you get to this round where it says builder's market or builder's holiday, I'm sorry. Then you can buy as many rooms as you want as long as you have the funds. Once a room is bought, you slide these down and we draw a new one from the bag. Now, because this is not the first round any longer, we can have something that's a 4, 5, or a 6. They're just going to come out and fill that in from here on out. You don't have to look at those little value numbers anymore. All right, so I've bought from the market. The last thing is clear board. So basically what that means is you're going to take this and we are now going to flip it. And we're going to put it back over here. So you're only going to flip those tiles 1 time. So once you see the rose, it's going to always stay on the rose card or rose side. The only thing would be with this type of card, which I showed you, is going to flip back and forth every time you use it. But the majority of the tiles you're going to use 1 time. It's going to flip over, and then from then on out, it's going to use that side. So what's the difference? All right, let's go back to the original side. 2 gentry have to be invited. Takes 1 footman. It gives you $300, but in the bottom right hand corner, if you never use the bowling green, you end up losing 3 points at the end of the game. Flip side, still 2 gentry, still a footman, but it only gives you $200 or 200 pounds, sorry, instead of 300. But now it is giving you 2 victory points at the end of the game. So you do want to at least play that once to get that. Because 100 pounds is not that big of a deal. I'd rather sacrifice the 100 pounds and make up those points. So it goes back over there. At that point, this turn for this player is over, and we move on to the next player. So because we're in the solitaire game, all we're going to do is roll the dice. That is an 8. We're going to come over here to our handy dandy little table. We're going to say 8 to 10. We're going to do this. So you'll see there's a standard turn and the monument turn. If there was a monument out there, you would base it off of that column. If not, use the standard. So position 3 gets bought. So 1, 2, 3. So our solo person has bought the smoking room. There you go. Move these down and pull out the billiards room. A lot of sporting stuff out. All right, at that point, that round is over. We move this down, and boom, we're on round 2. So you'll see that besides 16 through 20 basically being rolled, the solitaire opponent is always going to buy a tile. So if they roll 1 through a 15, they're going to buy a tile. I do actually like that quite a bit because we get more cards or more tiles through the market. I have found when I play 2-player games that if my wife and I are maybe saving up for something down on this side, multiple rounds go by where nothing new comes out. So I like that you see more tiles come through in the solitaire game. That definitely helps out on the objective cards. All right, so it's back to me. So we'll say we are going to rotate service. So what does that mean? We take anything here and move it here. Take anything here, move it there. Boom. So these guys and girls can still not be used, but I can use these 3. We're going to check the round. It has nothing special. We don't have any monuments. We don't have any servants or servant hall card. So we are going to do the same thing we did last time. I want to use this one. I'll show you why in a second. So I need to invite 2 family. I need to power it with a butler. There we go. So let's pick up our cards. Let's look at. So we have to have 2 families. So I'm going to use him. So I'm not going to buy a room this time around. I'll save money. So what I want to do is put out some people who are going to give me some more cards and some reputation. So I can show you how the reputation works. So because these are 2 family, I don't ever have to power them with servants. So really it's just the butler. So I'm going to pull the butler off here. Boom. You'll see there are no favors listed, so I don't get any advantage really for using the room. There is a slight advantage here shortly when we flip it over, but let's just wait on that. So really take the butler off, stick him there. All right, let's resolve her. So she has 2 things listed. This top one has the 1 little spade symbol. That means I draw the top card off of that non-prestigious guest, and I get to add it straight into my hand. So he can be used immediately on the next turn, which is nice. So that's great there. And then we resolve the second one, which has 2 line symbols, but the second line has a little asterisk. So the first line symbol we can definitely use. The second one, read this note, and if she were to be accompanied by a prestigious guest, someone from this stack, you would move up twice in the reputation. But we can only move up once. So what does that mean? We're going to take this little black reputation symbol. We're going to move to the next thing. Now it's moved from 5 back over to 1. At that point, we can flip this, and it is number 2. So what does the reputation mean? I didn't talk about that when I bought that card. I probably should have, but let's talk about that real quick now that I'm at 2. So what this means is I can buy rooms that have a 2 on it. I can buy rooms that have a 1 on it. I cannot buy rooms that have a 3 or 4 on it yet because my reputation is not high enough. Also, when you look at your guests, they have values here. I can never invite a guest that has a value higher than my reputation until the 14th round. We'll discuss that at the end. So this game is not just about getting money and buying more tiles. There are these like little gateways up, little walls up between you and you just inviting whoever you want and buying whatever tiles you want. You have to be working on this reputation track as well. So that was kind of my focus on this round. And then he either gives me 100 pounds or lets me move reputation up once. So I'm going to go and just move the reputation up once again because I want to get this up to 3 or 4 so I have a wider variety of cards I can use. All right, so we've done all of our favors. We are going to take these 2 and put them in the discard pile because we have exhausted them. We can buy from the market. Sure, I'll buy the barn. So it's 300 minus 100, so it only costs 2. So these blue service ones, this one in particular says groundskeeping staff is expanded. All estate activities, which are the coral ones, generate 1 reputation. So that's kind of nice to have, especially if I'm going to be working on my coral set. Now, I'll never use this as an activity, so there's no like the flip side is exactly the same. So it's just going to sit there kind of as a reminder that I have this ability. So I don't know. That might have been not such a good use of 200 pounds, but it's fine. Pull the next one out. Boom, drawing room. Remember to check that it's not something that's already been listed because you could sit it on top. And then all we have left to do is clear our board, which is where we grab this and flip it over. All right, so this is why I want to point this out. So in the top left-hand corner, it says Village Fair. So Village Fair is actually what's going to happen on the 3rd turn, and then it happens again on the 9th turn. And what this says is future Village Fairs produce $300 pounds and 2 reputation. Now, I did lose 3 points, so down here, I would get 3 victory points at the end of the game. Now I only get basically 0, but I like getting that free money and reputation on those 2 rounds. So I will never be able to use this again here, because now, just like the service one I bought, it's like just an activity that basically supplements my powers. All right, so that's my 8 things. Take the dice, roll for him. Again, there's no monuments out, so we use this first one. So 1 through 4, position 1, so he gets the tennis courts. Gonna move these down. Draw the next card. Croquet lawn. All right, and on to the next round. Boom. So refresh our service. So these move there. This guy moves there. All right, check for the different round trackers. So again, I just alluded to it. Village Fair is happening. So I have that. So I need to produce 300 pounds. 1, 2, 3. And I get 2 reputation. 1, 2. So to me, that's worth 3 points at the end of the game because I'm going to do it again in round 9 as well. And it's just a good way to kind of supplement. All right, so let's pick our activity. So we've got this new card here, and then I have these 2 lady cards. So I'm probably going to have to pass sometime soon. But you know what I could do is pick something that uses these 2 cards. And then we can show you how we can actually kind of expand and not have to pass until maybe round 6, but we'll see. So let's use this main. Well, we got this too. No, let's use main gazebo. So we're going to put this over here for afternoon tea. All right, we need to power it with a footman. Good, we got that. We want to invite our new guest, which needs a valid. Boom, got a valid. He's reputation 2. I'm reputation 2, so that all checks out. And we're going to invite the mom here. She's going to go right there. She doesn't need anything. All right, so we take the footman off, put that there, and we get to draw 1 card from the prestigious deck. So we got this guy. You see, he takes 2 servants, but he also gives us a lot of reputation if we're able to invite him, and a VP card, victory point card. But he needs, sorry, that's the points. We need to be at level 6 reputation to use him. So that's going to be kind of tough. So we probably can't use him soon, but when we do use him, that'll be nice. All right, let's take the valid off and exhaust him. We get to move up 1 reputation. We get 100 pounds. Boom. This goes back over here. And then the mom card is interesting. Sorry. Try to focus. Okay, so you'll see you can either do the top little diamond or the bottom. So the top, what that's saying is you draw 2 different non-prestigious, the 1 spade symbol cards, and you pick which one you want to keep, and then the other one goes on your deck. Or you can dismiss a card, a non-prestigious guest card. That's what that bottom location or that bottom action is. Because there are cards that you'll pick up that give you negative points, they give you negative reputation, but they might give you a lot of money. Or they might give you a lot of reputation, but cost you money. So maybe there's someone you want to use once or twice to get the big bonus, but then you want to get them out of your hand before the end of the game. You can use her to dismiss that. We don't really need to do that, so we're going to use the other one. Pick up these 2. So somebody that needs a valid and somebody that needs a lady's maid. I'm going to use the lady's maid. I'm going to keep this because I can use it on the next turn. So I'll go ahead and put that there. And then the one you don't pick goes under the deck like that. So we've exhausted her. Boom. All right. Enjoy the favors. Buy from the market. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So really, only thing I could buy because of my reputation is way down here at $800, which I don't have the moolah for that. So I will skip that. We clear our board by taking this and flipping it over. And that is that round. So let's roll for this guy. 7. There's no monument still. Position 2. He gets that cool room that flips back and forth. I was hoping to get that eventually, but that's fine. And then we put out a new card. All right, so our first monument, that big trophy, comes out. So from here on out, until that's gone, we will use this right-hand column on his card to decide which tile he takes away each turn. All right, so that's that. So now we go to a courtship round. So this round is handled completely different. There are 2 little emblems here. The first one has a card and a trash can, and what that means is we need to pick an objective card to ditch and never get back. I'm going to ditch this wealth card because I've never once had that much money at the end of the game. So see a wealth card. The other emblem states that if someone has one of these family cards, you toss them back up there, except for at the very end. But since we're on our first courtship, we don't have one of those. I'm not sure why they even printed that on the first one. All right, so we covered those 2 emblems. Really, the biggest thing on the courtship now is to flip over this first little tiny card. And it's the coral color. So to impress one of the fair child, people we need to have more points in this category of cards or tiles. So we're going to look down here at the victory points, and I have 2 here, and I have a -2 there. That kind of sucks. If I would have eventually played that, it would have been an extra 2. I would have had 4. But I have 0. So then we're going to pick up Stewart family. And it's the first courtship, first season. Thankfully, in their block, they have a -2. So we have more points than them in that thing, that category of improvements. So we win that round, or win that courtship. So we're going to draw the top VP. So again, I talked about this a little bit in the setup. That's either 3 points at the end of the game, or I can trade that in sometime throughout the game and get 200 pounds. And then I can also pick from one of these. Oops, sorry, I hit the camera. People here. So he basically gives you a lot of reputation and uses a valid. She gives you a prestigious guest and reputation. I really like her. I like to get more prestigious guests, so I'm going to take her and go ahead and put her into my hand. All right, so that's the end of the round. End of the courtship. That was our first one. You keep this out because it does play into something at the end of the courtship, at the final courtship. So we are now on to our next round. Now there is a reminder here, begin service tile reserve. So what that means is in an effort to get more expensive or grander tiles out, anytime one of those blue service cards comes out, tile comes out, you're going to immediately move it and stick it here. And they're always going to be 300 pounds. Anyone can look through that stack at any point, but basically that's a way to not take up any spots here of those blue cards. And then if you look right over there on round 8, or I'm sorry, round 9, there you have a similar little arrow that says begin PR, which is this number down here. I don't remember. Oh, prestige rating. Sorry, that's what PR means. The PR1 tile reserve. So anything that came out that's a 1, you would move to this spot and just start stacking them up there. Again, they are available for 300 pounds, but they don't take up any of your spots. So we don't have any service tiles out, so we don't have to actually do anything there. So it is my turn, so we're going to refresh. So move that person there, that person there. There's nothing to check. So I still have cards, so you'll see that the last couple turns I've been drawing some more guests. So we don't have to pass yet, but we are dwindling, and we only have so many people to use. So we got to make sure to use a combination of these people that is going to work out for us. Thankfully, we got Fairchild in our hand now, because she does not have any reputation limit and she's really powerful. So what we will do is we are going to use this afternoon tea activity and put that there. So we need 1 housemaid and we need 2 ladies. So we're going to invite the card we just got, and then we can't invite her because we only have 1 lady's maid that we're going to use up on Fairchild. We can't invite him because he ain't a lady. So that leaves us with this person who thankfully doesn't need a servant. It's going to go there. So we're going to power that. And then we're going to collect our favors. So we're going to take her off, put her there. That's 3. 1, 2, 3. All right, so we passed over from 5 to 1. So we take this off and we can now show that we are reputation 3. We're going to take the lady's maid off and we're going to get a new prestigious guest here. Boom. And we're going to move up 2 reputation. 1, 2. And she is going to give us 100 pounds. So these people have been exhausted. So there. We're going to decide if we want to buy anything. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We could buy the kennels because we do have the right reputation. This monument would be nice, but until it comes down, it's going to be 800 plus 100, so 900 pounds, which we do not have. Croquet lawn is only 500 because it's 700 minus 2. That gives us less money, but we do have to use up more cards. Let's just buy the kennels. So 1, 2, 3, boom. Buy that, stick it there, move it down, put on riding stables. There's a lot of green tiles being drawn. Then we can take this, we can flip it over, put it there, and that turn is done. So now we roll this. So, a 20. So normally we would, because of monuments out there, we would go down here and we would use this column. But a 20 is a refresh. So that means we're going to take all of these tiles and you're going to just move them down here for a second. You're going to draw out 6 more. And we're going to place them out here. Now I'm going to be real honest right now, and I have not refreshed the market enough to remember if you have to place them in the order that you draw them out, or if you use the little numbers here. I do know that since we have service tiles that came out, we need to stack them over there and then refill that up. So I will look and put a little note on the video explaining if you pull them out and put them left to right as you draw them out of the bag, or if you are going to reline them up using those little numbers like we did at the beginning. Sorry, I don't know, but I'll put a comment there and we'll get that figured out. All right, so if we refreshed, he doesn't actually buy a tile this turn, and we move on to the next thing here. These guys move there, these move here. So we check the round. Oh, it says objective cards. So we are going to draw 3 new objective cards. Sorry, 2 new objective cards. 1, 2. So that gives us a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then remember, we're going to toss one at each courtship. So that's 3 of these we'll end up tossing. So we only have 3 at the end of the game. So I'm going to show you the 2 new ones I got. So this one, $5 5 VP for French Garden. I don't have the French Garden, but the French Garden is right there. So that's nice. That can be something to target. And then this is 10 VP for Smoking Room and Drawing Room. So Smoking Room, he got. Now there are multiple tiles, like I've said, so we could get that back. But the Drawing Room is not out here, so I still have to wait and get that one. So we'll see how that goes. Now we do take these that were in there before from the refresh, and we toss them back in the bag. So they don't go out of the game, they just get tossed back in there. Alright, so I'm going to zoom through these last 2 so you can see one more courtship and how that works. So it'll actually... Well, okay, so here. You'll see my cards. 2 of these people need 6s. I'm not at a reputation of 6 yet. So she's the only one I can use. The problem with that is every room needs more than 1. Now I could use this butler's room, and I could set the butler in there and then hire 2 servants. I would get 2 servants and stick them in the expended service. Honestly, if I was going to play this all the way through, that's probably what I would do at this point, to get some more servants, so then I could, um, mm, well, let's just do it. What the heck? And then for our last turn, we will pass. So let's stick that there. We need a blue servant or butler to power it. Boom. We do not invite any guests, so we do not need to put any cards down. So we expend him. We now hire 2 servants from the supply. We can't do the under butlers because we need a special room for that. So I will not be able to use that. But I'll get another footman and stick that there, and I'll get another lays maid because I know actually no, I'll get another valet because we have gotten a few cards that have these green valets, and one is just not doing it for me. So at that point, we flip this over. So next time you use the butler's room, you can actually either hire 2 servants, or you can steal one from another player. Obviously, in a solitaire game, I don't guess that's very helpful. But in a 2-player game, that could be helpful, and that could really do some damage to the opponent. That's really the only time there's a gotcha moment in the game where you start stealing those. I guess there could be ones when you take a tile they really need, but there's not a lot of direct conflict other than that. All right, so I could buy. I'm just going to skip that for right now. I'm not going to worry about it and move on to this. So I'm going to roll. So a 17. 16 through 19 is no purchase, so they're not going to purchase anything. That's slightly different than refresh, though. Oh, but you do need to mention, I should mention this, if no purchase, next turn is -5. So the next turn will take away 5, so that basically ensures that they have to roll 1 through 15 and they have to buy a tile this next turn. All right, so that's that. We'll go to the next round. Move this up. Move this up. All right, so in this case, I could invite them to, but I'm going to pass just to show you how that works. So how do we pass? We say, hey, we're going to pass. So we're not going to do any of this activity stuff. We're going to take all of our servants, no matter where they are, and we're going to stick them in that. We're going to take all of our guests that we have that we've already invited, and we're going to stick them back in our hands. So now we have the full complement of all these people to invite moving forward. So we'll put that there. We're going to get 200 pounds, and then we're going to buy a card if we would like to. So I would really like to buy this for 700. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't have the money, and I don't have the reputation anyways. So basically that would be that. That's the end of a turn where you pass. I'll roll this. So it's a 12, but remember we have to -5 off of there, so really it's a 7. So it's going to buy position 2. Boom. Move these down. Draw another one. Oh, we got another monument out there. That's that. And we're on to the next courtship. So we got to take away an objective card. Who really cares? So I'm not going to play this whole game, but toss that one. Then that other emblem we are going to use. So I need to find the Fairchild card. That's not the Fairchild card. Where'd she go? Here we go. So I'm going to take her and I'll put her back up here because basically she's up for grabs now in this next courtship. We're going to pick one of these. All right, so it is the essentials. So I have 0 points in the essentials column. Not good. Mr. Stewart has 3 in the essentials column. So he won that. So you basically take one of these cards it doesn't really matter, and stick it over with their stuff. If it was at the last round, it would get 8 extra points for that. And then it also gets a VP card. You don't look at this. It just gets those extra VP at the end of the game. So they won that one, and then you would move on to the next turn. Remember, the prestige rating 1 would start, so any ones that come out or that are out there already would move up to this section. We had the village fair, so we would do all this stuff. But you're basically going to move forward for the next 2 seasons the same way. A few things I will point out real quick before we wrap this up is you do have some special actions down here. So like this says 2 reputation for $100. You could move that back 2 and then get 100 pounds. You could spend 3 and refresh 1 servant. You could spend 4 and refresh all servants. Refresh the builder's market like we did earlier. So that's a way for you to lose reputation. And obviously, if you went from this side to this side, then you would have to go backwards like that. But sometimes you're in dire need of refreshing a servant or needing that last 100 pounds, and you can use that. There are some other special places on the round. So Builder's Holiday, I will remind you I mentioned that, and that's where you can buy more than 1 room. That turn, you can buy as many rooms as you've got money for. And then this National Holiday during that round, you do not have to pay attention to your reputation. So you could buy any room, even if it's higher, and you can invite any guest, even if they're higher. All right, so let's just look at how the last courtship works. I'm going to move this over slightly. So you would have the 3rd courtship, boom, and you would have the 4th courtship, which is the final one. So in the final one, you are not just checking against this. You're actually checking the points for all 4 of them. So if we look over here at Stuart and we look here, so we would say the brown is 1, so 3. The blue is actually, we've got 2 of them, so we need to count that twice, so 10. And then the coral 1 time for 9. So it'd be 13 plus 9, so 22 points between those cards. And then you would come over here and you would count up all your brown points once, all your coral points once, and all your blue points twice. If you have scored higher than that family over there, the 22 or 23, whatever I said, 22 I think, if you do that, then you get the VP card for the end, and you get one of these people to toss into your hand basically for the $8 victory points at the end of the game. So then at the end of the game, there's a score pad that you whip out, which I will show you real quickly. Sorry, I put it away earlier when I was making room. All right, here we go. So there's the score pad. So I'm going to just quickly go over what each of these means. Zoom in for you. All right, there. So you would count up all your victory points on your individual tiles. So these numbers down here. So that would be your victory points for every room that you either started with or bought. Gentry VP. So that's all of your cards in your hand. They have a victory point up here. You add all those up. Remember, some of them can be negatives. So you've got a plus and minus. Objective and milestone. So at the end of the game, you're going to only have 3 of these cards, and you're going to see what you score for those. So if you have 1 victory point per coral tile, you'd add those points. So you come up with your extra points there and put them there. Reputation VP, so whatever reputation you end up with. So say you end up with 7 at the end of the game. There's a chart in the rule book that tells you how that equals. So like 7 might equal 25 points for having your reputation up, so you stick that there. Service VP, so you get 2 victory points per servants. So all the servants that you started or hired, you count them up and multiply them by 2. Wealth, 1 victory point for every 200. So in this case, maybe I'm left with 400, and so I would get 1 point per 2, so that's 2 points. And then your courtship cards. So again, you have these cards that you are winning if you were winning the courtships, and if you did not spend them to use for these actions, you get to add up those extra points there, and the grand total wins. All right, so that's the playthrough for the solo game. It's really similar to, I mean, it's almost identical, honestly, to playing with players. Sure, they don't have this card that you're judging against. You would be judging against their actual tiles that they have, but it's almost identical. So if if this looks like something you would like to play, just know that you can play it solo or with other real people, and the game changes are really minimal, if anything. It's not one of those where if you want to play it solo, you have to learn a whole nother rule set or some other thing. I really like that in this game, I learned it one time and I can play it with people or without, and I don't have to remember a bunch of crazy additional rules or setup or anything like that. So hopefully this has helped people out there see Obsession. I know at the time of this creation of this video, which is end of July 2022. This game you basically can't get anywhere. The designer has mentioned just recently that there are copies on a boat that should be in Savannah very soon, and that there should be enough copies, I think he stated, to basically get through 2024. So if you've been looking for this game, you should actually see it on some shelves pretty soon, or on Amazon or anything like that. I do think he mentioned Books A Million. If you have one of those, should be carrying it. So hopefully, if you've been wanting this game, it's at a store very soon, or by the time you watch this, it will already be at a store, and you're not having to pay some outrageous price that people are paying right now. Hopefully this setup and gameplay gives you some information to get you started, let you know if you want to pick this one up or not. So as I say on all of our videos, please check out the website, boardgamebreakdown.com. So I've got a written review up of this where I go less in depth about how to play and the rules, and more in depth of just what I really like about the game, what I don't like about the game. So you can check that out. We got plenty of other reviews up there as well, spanning a wide variety of different games. Obviously, if you're watching this, you've seen our YouTube channel, but go there, check out our other videos. We also have an Instagram, which is board.game.breakdown. Check out the pictures there. We try to put pictures up of upcoming projects that we are going to be reviewing or doing videos on. And, on any of those, please comment, subscribe. We want to really talk to those people out there that are enjoying or not enjoying our stuff, and just let us know what you like and don't like so we can make it better. So again, just thank you all for taking the time to watch this. I know it's a little long, but I really like this game and there's a lot to it, and I wanted to make sure to give it the proper time it deserves. So until next time, I'm Chris from Board Game Breakdown, and thanks for watching.